Okay, everyone, I think we would like to start. Um, so if you could just be comfortable. For those of you who have your backs, you want to turn around or whatever you would like. I think we would like to begin the day. Thank you. Okay, if you don't mind, I think I'm going to read. I put this together and I want to make sure that I get it right. So, thank you all for joining us, family, friends, colleagues, students, for this ceremony to remember our dear friend, Professor Lauren Sullivan. My name is Patrick Clarkin, and I am the current chair of the anthropology department here at UMass Boston, which Lauren has been an integral part of since 1998. Today, we have a number of people scheduled who will share their thoughts and stories about Lauren, including her many accomplishments and what she meant to us and will mean to us for a long time to come. Together, we all saw the different parts of Lauren as a colleague and teacher here at UMass Boston, as well as up the road at Tufts, in the field as an archaeologist and scholar, and of course at home. We hope to share with each other a fuller picture of Lauren, though I strongly suspect the impressions we all have are quite similar because she's as authentic as they come. In the past 2 weeks, I've had the privilege to communicate with various people in Lauren's life, and it is clear that the admiration and love for her is unanimous. Her decades of teaching evaluations from students also demonstrate this. A quick note on today, we will aim to be brief in our remarks to give each other a chance to speak. I will go slightly longer just to set the stage and share some stories. We hope to have time at the end for others to share their thoughts who aren't scheduled necessarily, but forgive us if we cannot accommodate everyone due to time constraints. We also have index cards on your tables for people to write down memories of Lauren. If we do not have time to read them all today, they can still be shared with family and friends. They will not go to waste. In communicating with Lauren's husband, Gary, he said he would like the theme today to be about love for Lauren and for one another. We also know that a range of emotions are natural and grief will show its face today. Yet behind the grief, we know there is love. It's been said that grief can be a form of love that doesn't quite know where to go. At the request of Lauren's family, I shared with her students how much she loved them. It is her love of students that inspired us to suggest 2 awards to help students across the country defray the costs of archaeological training or attending conferences. One is the Hugs Award, sponsored by the Society for American Archaeology. The other is the newly named Lauren A. Sullivan Travel Award, sponsored by the Lambda Alpha Anthropology Honor Society. You can find these on the program, or if you're at home, you can contact one of us here at UMass Boston. When I had to break the news to our students what happened, it came at the beginning of spring break. I reminded them that Lauren was a joyful person, and that while I was sure she would be moved by any grief they felt, I was confident she would also want them to find moments of happiness during their break. You can even tell from some of the Lauren-inspired music we played at the beginning, or some of these photos that you saw, that happiness was her near default setting. Yet I have to admit, I'm somewhat of a hypocrite, and I cannot help but feel grief myself. There's a fundamentally good, extremely bright, and joyful person who should be here with us all, and I know we would all like more time with her. When we got the news of Lauren's passing, we were all saddened and stunned. My colleagues mentioned having to read the announcement several times, naturally thinking it must be a mistake or perhaps some other Lauren. When reality set in, our thoughts immediately turned to Lauren's family. Gary, Mike, Karen, Kristen, Michael and Lori, Aaron, Ryan, Finn, Kellen, Joe, Forrest, May, Kai, and Amara. We've been thinking of you all for the past 2 weeks. On behalf of my colleagues, thank you for sharing Lauren with us these past 27 years. She left an indelible mark on 2 universities, for colleagues, students, and archaeology, as we shall hear today. One former student, Sophia Grimm, who graduated years ago, messaged me to say that every time she enters a museum or travels to Central America, she still thinks of Lauren. Another 2 students, Katie O'Brien and Katie Jo Markman, wrote the following, quote, "We will always keep our memories with Lauren and Belize close to our heart. She didn't just teach us how to do archaeology, she showed us how to do it with cultural humility and love and respect for the land and people. It was an absolutely life-changing and life-enhancing experience, and we owe it all to her and the amazing community she created." And the 2 Katies are here today in the room with us. Gary, Mike, and Karen, I can collect these memories from students and share them with you. They are still coming in. If you'll permit me, I'd like to note that several people in our department have lost loved ones in the past few years. And again, please forgive me, but I cannot help but return to the loss of my own relatives, including my brother, one of the most impactful events of my life. I say this not to divert attention from Lauren, but rather to say that you are not alone here. When we revisit our own emotions and experiences, we remember well, and our hearts go out to you all. We too feel the loss of our friend, but we won't pretend to say we know exactly what you are feeling now. All people and all relationships are unique. As F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote, there are all kinds of loves in this world, but never the same love twice. Still, we have a decent idea of where you are now. Kristen and Michael in particular, I remember what it's like to learn of a sibling's passing. And I just know. And nothing more needs to be said about that. When I first started teaching here in 2003, my office was next door to Lauren's for many years. She and I were often on similar schedules, teaching Mondays, Wednesdays, and Friday mornings, where we would talk about our weekends and how our respective favorite football teams, the Patriots and the Saints, were doing. Particularly Drew Brees. She loved Drew Brees. And you saw a note from a student talking about, I love Drew Brees, give me extra credit. Lauren being Lauren, she often had an open door to be inviting to students. The walls in McCormick Building, where our offices are, aren't very thick, and while we can't hear our neighbors' conversations perfectly, we are still aware that people are talking nearby. Open doors are risky things, and Lauren and I would sometimes get caught in long conversations, for example, with agents from the big publishers trying to convince us to adopt their textbooks for our classes. Lauren and I both share a similar malady as nice, low-conflict people. Yes, some such people still exist in New England. We might not be Lauren levels of niceness, but we try. Lauren and I worked out a system where we could call each other's office phone if we could hear that the other person might need to be bailed out of a long conversation. And we would say, oh no, I'm very sorry, but I have to take this important call. And it worked. It worked. So feeling spared, conflict avoided, time saved, the friendship of two low conflict people in action. This will probably come up a few times today, but let me add that Lauren was a rock star of being organized. She had all of her archaeology courses meticulously planned. If there was an Olympic event in organization, Lauren would have medaled in it. Just yesterday, her office mate and I, Alan Waters, we both agreed that even though it took the efforts of many people to plan today's gathering, for which I am grateful, Lauren would have had this event planned a week ago. She would have run circles around us. Lauren often jokingly, you probably have heard this, jokingly referred to her penchant for organization in a self-deprecating way, often laughing while saying that she had OCD or that, and I quote, oh, I finished that a long time ago because I'm such a freak. It occurred to me this weekend after dropping my son back off at college after his spring break and having a quiet ride home from Amherst and a chance to slow down and think about today that this self-deprecation was another expression of Lauren's humility and kindness, sparing the feelings of us non-Olympians who were chronically late and never fully mastered the art of time management. At the beginning of every fall semester, one of our first tasks is to turn in our course syllabi and our annual faculty reports, which summarize our academic accomplishments over the past year. Lauren was always first, always. Barbara Davis, our former administrative assistant, used to have to chase several of us down in order to get our stuff in, but not Lauren. One year, I prepared actually over the summer. I had my syllabi and report ready to go on day one, waiting for Barbara to ask for them. And I immediately did so. And then I went in and jokingly asked Barbara, was I first? And she, nope. Still nope. Still can't beat her. And somehow Lauren got them in even before being asked. Barbara playfully gave Lauren a gold star sticker, which you might have seen in some of these slides going around, which is still there on her office mailbox years later. And I had to settle for a silver star, which is still there on my mailbox. And that is as it should be, with Lauren forever having the gold. Lauren's impact will be felt by us all for a long time. In her honor, I will aspire to reach Lauren levels of kindness, joyfulness, and organization, which I know is an impossible task, and to be more generous and a better anthropologist. Thank you. Before our next speaker comes up, we would like to have a moment of silence for Lauren.
Like Patrick, I feel it's best if I try to read something, make sure I stay on task with this. I'm Stephen Sullivan. I've been at UMass Boston for 25 years, and so I've known Lauren for that entire time. And I want to start this by doing what I'm going to call a quick call and response. That's going to honor her southernness that she brought every day. And if you've been in her class or you've been in a group setting with her, you know how to do this. I'm going to say something and you're going to respond. And let's see if we can get it right. Hey, y'all. That's right. Anyone who's ever taken a class with Lauren knows that's how class begins. That's how a meeting begins. Hey, y'all. She was ready to go at any moment with that. Like I said, I've known Lauren for 25 years, and we actually have several interesting things in common, including being Southern, which I'm going to address here shortly. She'd been here about 3 years before I got here, and there's absolutely no question that she was a dear colleague, she was a great friend, she was a smart archaeologist, and as Patrick mentioned, one of the most organized people I've ever known. And I'm going to tell you a couple of stories about that. She was, as you have already gathered, if you don't know it already, she was a beloved instructor, a beyond reliable colleague, and a skilled ceramicist and Maya archaeologist who kept up active research when actually her teaching schedule could have weighed heavily against that. And some people might mention that as we go forward. I don't want to talk necessarily a lot about archaeological research, or I don't also work in Mesoamerica, so that's not my realm of experience. I just want to share some things about Lauren as a person within those spaces that either overlapped with me or that I found particularly memorable. As I mentioned, we are both from the South. She's from Louisiana, and I'm from Arkansas, so I'm somewhat near, but New Orleans is a long way from Arkansas, and that's a little bit of a different thing, but we kind of also appreciated that sort of shared regional identity. However, Lauren was a much better Southerner than I was, and which, as much to my family's chagrin, I don't care about football, but Lauren did, and especially when it came to talking about the Saints. And she would also, another way I'm not a very good Southerner is I'm a vegetarian. And so Lauren gave me a lot of grief about that. She's like, oh, are you having your tofurkey? She's like, what about deep fried turducken that we've been having in New Orleans all these years? So there was always this sort of playfulness around that. We also have names that are very similar, Sullivan, Silliman. So back in the days when students actually turned in papers in a physical form, I mean, like I don't mean they don't turn them in now, but they submit them online often. I would get her student stuff in my mailbox, and she would get mine, and we'd often joke, like, would you want to just grade that instead? As I mentioned, the other thing we share is we're both archaeologists. She worked in Belize, of course, and I work in Connecticut. And more than fellow archaeologists, we both offered archaeological field schools for well over 20-something years for both of us. This led us to a lot of friendly competition. She would often jokingly try to take students to Belize, when I'm trying to recruit them to come to Connecticut. And as you can imagine, she's recruiting with ancient Maya ruins and jungles, and I'm talking about forests and ticks and something that looks like the same environment that people from Massachusetts are used to. So I couldn't offer much compelling on that front. And she would often joke at open house things where students are coming in. She's like, well, make sure you give me flyers for your field school. I'm going to put them under the Belize flyers. So it was always a lot of fun. And one of my favorite stories is my very first field school had an undergrad from UMass Boston who went to her field school and then came to mine. He literally got off the plane from Belize, slept, and then came to Connecticut to do my field school. Super dedicated, but he showed up with the machete. And if you've been to Belize, that's a very useful tool to have. Most of the environments of New England forest, not so much. So I felt like I had to unlearn some things, and he would be hacking at ferns to get, I'm like, we don't really need to do that. It's okay. But she joked with, I told her about this later, and she said, I told him to bring that machete. And said, and to bring that thing out whenever you start babbling about arbitrary 10 centimeter levels, and if you're not an archaeologist, that means nothing, but that's something, when you start babbling about that, he's supposed to show you how to do real archaeology. So we had lots of good banter about that. And what many of you may not know outside of her family and friend circle is Lauren's love of shoes. I think we can confirm, yep. And she struggled to pack anytime she was going to Belize, like how many shoes can I bring? Do I need an extra bit of luggage for that? And she joked, I think, maybe some can confirm this, about buying Manolo Blahnik field boots. I don't know that those exist, but if they did, she probably would have found them. And those who knew her well also probably got a kick out of, if not worried some about her eBay obsession about 20 years ago. She kind of got into that, and we had a good laugh. There's an odd reference, but there's a Weird Al Yankovic song called eBay that's a play off the Backstreet Boys, I Want It That Way. And so I sent that to her, and we just had a good laugh about sort of the eBay day when people were doing that sort of stuff. Now, also because we're archaeologists, Lauren and I also saw each other regularly at Society for American Archaeology conferences. That's one of the ones that has the scholarship that we're hoping people might donate to. And because of Lauren's intense teaching schedule, sometimes we taught on opposite days on campus, so we wouldn't see each other that much, but we would see each other at these conferences. And this was always a lot of fun. There was a conference in Milwaukee about 20 years ago where I got to meet her really good friend, Kat Brown, who is in lots of these pictures, who's going to have a video presentation here. So I got to become good friends with her. We did these excursions to some archaeological sites, and really it was a lot of fun. And talking about the sort of masterful organization, the very next year we went to Montreal for the same archaeology conference. We were all on the same flight. We get off the plane and we're kind of in the luggage area, and Lauren sort of stops us all. She reaches into something, and she has something for this small group of us. She had taken, on a piece of paper, had typed up the current currency conversion for Canadian to US dollars with several examples of key denominations and had laminated it. She laminated the card and gave it so that we were all organized and could do exactly. And we joked for many years after that, and I thought, wow, that's serious organization. But that's also organization and care. She didn't just laminate one for herself. She's like, I'm going to help people. I'm going to provide that for people. And a final quick anecdote that's more recent. I think Gary knows about this. During the pandemic, when everyone's exploring baking new bread and stuff, I mentioned to Lauren, hey, I'm making cereal. I'm making dried flake cereal. And Lauren's like, why would you do that? But I'm going to try that. And if I remember right, she tried it and said it was the worst thing that she'd ever, and Gary's like, no, don't ever do that again. It actually turns out okay, but we did joke a lot about that. And I think she liked at least my apple cider donuts. So in our last fall gathering, she made sure Gary came, and I had to bring the donuts to meet that. So I wanted to keep this somewhat sort of light and reflective on all the joy and the brightness that she brought. And I'll always reflect fondly on Lauren, as will everyone in this room. This department, the city of Boston, and the field of archaeology in general just got a lot dimmer with her passing. She always brightened the room just by walking into it, and she will be missed. However, her legacy is strong, if not legion, as you can see from the people in this room, many students, past and current. And yeah, that's all I don't know how to end that, but yeah, thank you.
Okay, hello everybody. I've been asked to make two announcements. One is that for people standing in the back, there's an open table down front, and you're more than welcome to come down and take a seat if you choose to. And the other announcement is to encourage people to partake of the food. There's lots and lots of food, and we don't want to be taking extra food home, so help yourself. My name is Alan Waters from the Anthropology Department. I've known Lauren for 25 or more years since she's been here, and we have shared an office all that time, and she became a very close friend and colleague for me. And what I'm going to do now is read a remembrance written about Lauren by another colleague of ours who is not able to be here today. So I'm representing someone else at this point. Professor Judy Zeitlin was a member of our anthropology department for many years, and during that time, Lauren became a close friend and colleague of Judy's. So what I'm going to do now is read some words of remembrance that Judy sent us a few days ago from her home in Maine. And Judy wrote the following. When Lauren began teaching at UMass Boston, I was delighted to have another Mesoamerican archaeologist join the Anthro department. In 1982, I had spent several months in Belize myself working along with my late husband as field supervisors for the Belize Archaic Archaeological Project. Our project was headed by R.S. Scotty McNeish, well known in the field for finding archaeological firsts, quote unquote. Its focus on pre-agricultural encampments in this part of the Maya lowlands limited project findings to stone tools that predated the classic Maya sites that Lauren studied. But my time living in a country with such a vibrant multicultural present and a Maya past enshrined prominently in sites of monumental architecture made me acutely aware of how Lauren was drawn to return to Belize each summer. And she did so regularly, taking countless groups of Boston undergraduates with her to Belize, where they experienced the excitement of archaeological discovery, not to mention the discomfort of voracious bugs, dangerous snakes, and soggy socks that are part of rainy season tropical field work. How she managed these summer duties after teaching multiple courses at 2 universities, each with demanding grading and mentoring duties, is a mystery to me. Fellow scholars unaware of the crushing demands on Lauren's time will know her only by the prolific publication record she maintained, with a long list of project reports and journal publications with Lauren as lead author or co-author. She exemplified the obligation archaeologists have to present their findings to their peers and to the interested public. Although my personal archaeological interests focused primarily in a different region, Oaxaca, Mexico, and a different period of the past, the late pre-Hispanic and colonial eras, Lauren and I found numerous occasions to confer on specific issues, from the fine points of ceramic analysis to topics in Mesoamerican archaeology we would share with students. But primarily it is the conversations about other things in life that I remember best. Lauren's Louisiana roots were proudly displayed when she shared techniques for making a Thanksgiving turducken. Second reference to turducken today. Don't be surprised if there are more. Turducken, a dish I will attempt to make this year in her honor. We talked often about her family in New Orleans, who were ever present in her thoughts. When Hurricane Katrina hit the city in 2005, the subject turned to what her friends and family were going through in the aftermath. After hearing about a complex set of scenarios and options Lauren had figured out for her parents, I told her in all sincerity that she would be the first person I would want to call if I were ever in some kind of emergency myself. Those skills of organization and her ability to focus on how best to accomplish a goal were prime among the reasons Lauren was the ideal person to replace me as intermediate seminar coordinator in the UMass Boston General Education program when I retired in 2016. Beyond supervising the program, the intermediate seminar coordinator mentors faculty teaching a diverse array of courses that share a common goal of enhancing students' critical thinking and writing skills. With over 40 sections offered each term by a broad range of academic departments, the courses are not meant to provide disciplinary basics, but rather to draw on select issues to hone these targeted skills. Lauren herself had participated in this program for many years beforehand, teaching the course called The Rise and Fall of the Maya to students who may or may not have majored in anthropology themselves. And I hear wonderful things from former colleagues about Lauren's effectiveness in this administrative role. Regrettably, I did not have an opportunity to meet Lauren's husband, Gary, with whom she reconnected some 25 years after their first romance. Though I teased her about a story straight out of the movies, the reality is the enormous joy Lauren found not only in their partnership, but in the wider family of adult children and grandchildren Gary brought to her life. This past January, Lauren sent me some pictures from their trip to California to see them, pictures in which she is surrounded by grandkids beaming with happiness. While Lauren left us much too soon, we can take some comfort in the fullness of the life she lived. Again, those are the words from Professor Judy Zeitlin.
Hello, I'm Neil Bruss from the English department, and I represent faculty on general education committees teaching general education courses from around the university, some of whom are here with us today. As Judy mentions, Lauren was coordinator of intermediate seminars, but it's now 100 seminars a year. And as Judy mentioned, she mentored the faculty teaching them, but she also looked after the assessment of their students' learning. She helped them improve their courses. With me, she monitored enrollment demand, and she helped faculty create new seminars to expand our offering and bring new knowledge from faculty recently hired into our program. That's what Lauren did with me for 10 years, all the while pursuing her teaching and archaeological research. The materials for her own intermediate seminar, The Rise and the Fall of the Mayas, are remarkable, thoroughly worked out, welcoming to students, elegantly designed with photographs of Mesoamerican archaeological discoveries. Her assignments are the best models of what we want our students to learn. The intermediate seminar is the threshold between our foundational lower division courses and advanced, more independent work. And in this respect as well, Lauren was an ideal intermediate seminar coordinator. During part of nearly every summer, of course, during the past 10 years, when the two of us were monitoring our seminar offerings for an entering class of students, Lauren would go into the field. It could not have been more appropriate that the coordinator of a program that marks our students' entry into more independent work would be so fully engaged in her own. Her work as coordinator was extraordinary, exacting, patient, painstaking, and brilliant. I saw the mind and spirit of an archaeologist intermediate seminar coordinatorship, the thoroughness, the continuous effort, and the constant emphasis on the meaning of the materials we gathered. We've now begun to work toward a new academic year, and it has been not difficult, but really impossible to face it without her. But in our great loss, we remember her and we try to demonstrate those qualities that she always demonstrated: excellence, thoroughness, imagination, endless optimism, and a powerful dedication. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ping Ann Addo, and I am one of Lauren's colleagues in the Department of Anthropology. I'm a cultural anthropologist, and I have the honor of reading words by our colleague Lauren Bowen, who is Associate Professor of English here at UMass Boston, who wasn't able to be here. And she's written this. Lauren Bowen, another Lauren, has written this about our Lauren Sullivan. Dear colleagues, I'm honored to share a few words about Lauren Sullivan in absentia, though it's impossible to do so in a way that feels equal to her presence in our lives and in our work. Lauren and I worked in tandem with the general education writing curriculum, as you just heard from our colleague Neil, so our paths crossed regularly in meetings and overlapping initiatives. Because we shared the same first name and similar roles, we were often mistaken for one another in emails, and referring to ourselves as the other Lauren became a running joke. She was always the better Lauren, though. I first came to know Lauren years ago when we served on the steering committee for a long and complex process to support equitable and effective writing assessment, and we continued to meet regularly across the virtual table at Gen Ed committee meetings. Committee work is not usually something many of us remember fondly, but Lauren made those meetings human. She made them spaces where people mattered as much as the work. And when the Writing Across the Curriculum program launched in 2024, Lauren was the first person I wanted on that program's steering committee. I knew from my previous interactions with Lauren that we would all benefit from her care and optimism, whether the question was small and practical, such as what citation style students should practice with, or larger and more difficult, such as how we respond to generative AI use among students. Not because it's, and I'm using the quotes I see written here, cheating, but because it's destroying the planet. As I'm sure will be said many times today, Lauren was warm and kind, always ready with a smile punctuated with an unironic y'all. Her responses to colleagues and to students were always insightful and always grounded in a genuine desire to create opportunities for meaningful growth. Even in difficult conversations, she focused on how we could respond with integrity and compassion without losing sight of why we work. This sudden loss leaves a profound gap in our academic leadership, but even worse, it is deeply felt by those of us who had the privilege to know her and work alongside her. In sympathy for her family, her colleagues in anthropology and in general education, and the whole UMass Boston community, signed Sincerely, Lauren Bowen. And as I have the floor, I would just like to say that I didn't know Lauren terribly well, but there are two things that I'll never forget about having her as a colleague. In my first semester, my first winter in Boston, in 2005 into 2006, I had to fly back to California, where I had been living, to do a quick ceremony with a community I was continuing to work with there. And I was going to arrive back the night before my classes were going to resume that week, and I was telling Lauren about it, and she said, "It's a snowy time. If you get stuck, send me a text and I'll go pop in a video for your class." Because this is the first semester I was teaching 8 a.m. 3 days a week. You know. So Lauren she understood what that was like. But Lauren was always here. Even if Lauren taught at 10, she was here at 7 o'clock, right? Like, so she's just, and I said, "Oh, yeah, sure, I appreciate it. I'm sure it's going to be fine." Because, I'm thinking, why would it snow the night before I fly back? Like, it's New England. It's completely expected that what the weatherman says is going to happen, right? And he said there's going to be no snow. And sure enough, it happened, and my flight was delayed, and I was calling Lauren from the airport in San Francisco, going, "Could you please take the class? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. The video is this place." And she goes, "Ping An, don't worry about it. I'll be there." And she was. And when I got back 2 days later, I talked to my students, "How was the video?" The video was fine, but that professor was so sweet. She didn't just pop in the video and leave. She stayed through the whole thing with us and watched it. I said, yeah, and I didn't know Lauren terribly well, but she did me that kindness and saw my students and saw that at 8 a.m., she probably didn't want them to fall asleep. So she probably stayed to make sure they stayed awake. But she did me that lovely turn without knowing me and without needing to. And then the other thing is that Lauren being from Trinidad, I'm from Trinidad, from New Orleans. And there's that Mardi Gras tradition, and then Trinidad has Carnival, which we also call the greatest show on earth. She and I would joke that, we need to check out each other's festivals because we're not sure that it's actually as good as, the other person thinks. And because, I said, well, mine is an entire country on celebration. Yours is just a city. She goes, but what a city it is. So we never got a chance to check out together because we said we'd want to go together to one another's festivals. But I will make it to Mardi Gras one day. And the next carnival that I celebrate in Trinidad, I will make sure that my costume is gold, green, and purple in Lauren's memory of her love and her love of life. So I'm grateful to all of you for sharing her with us for a while. And may she rest in peace. And thank you, sister. We miss you.
Good afternoon. I'm one of Lauren's colleagues at Tufts University. My name is Craig Zapola. I'm a professor of anthropology at Tufts. So I met Lauren, I became her colleague in 2022, but I've known her for much longer than that. I actually met her about 25 years ago when I was an undergraduate student right here at UMass Boston. And unfortunately, when I was a student at UMass Boston, I did not have the opportunity to take any classes with Lauren. But I would like to point out that that doesn't mean I didn't learn anything from her. Primarily, I learned how to be a better human being, which of course, we could use a lot more of that these days. And I learned that you take time with every person you interact with and make them feel seen and care for them. And beyond that learning that I had, now I'm teaching her class at Tufts. I've tried to do the impossible feat of step into her class and do my best Lauren impression. And I'm not doing a good job, but I'm becoming a better teacher because of it. So I'm always grateful to Lauren for that. At this time, I'm going to read a prepared statement from my colleague, Sarah Pinto, who's the chair of anthropology at Tufts. To our friends at UMass Boston, Gary, Lauren's family, friends, colleagues, and students, I share my deepest condolences, and I'm sorry I cannot be with you this afternoon. When I started to write these thoughts, two words kept returning to mind: sunshine and warmth. When I imagine Lauren, I picture evening, the end of my teaching day, the beginning of hers. The day would be darkening. But Lauren was sunshine on 2 feet, bringing joy and warmth in the door. It is no wonder she was so beloved by her students, and no wonder that her colleagues remember her with these two recurring words: My colleagues remember Lauren in the following ways. Kathy Stanton said, "It always felt like a pick-me-up to run into Lauren on campus. Even if she wasn't in the greatest mood, it still seemed like a good mood. She had a wonderful warmth and a deep care for her students and her classes. She always ended a conversation with, 'Have a good class.' I'll miss her a lot." David Gus, also a long-term colleague, wrote, "She was one of the loveliest people I had the privilege of working with during my time at Tufts. We shared a deep love of New Orleans," a reoccurring theme, "which is where she grew up and no doubt where she developed her wonderful spirit. So open and joyous." Amal Bishra said, "I always appreciated her warmth, which felt inflected with a New Orleans sun, even up here in Boston, as well as her gentle concern when times were difficult for communities I care about. I enjoyed hearing about her treasured nieces and nephews. I know how much her work opened up new worlds for our students. I will miss her grace and elegance, as well as her kind camaraderie." There's a long line here. Jamie Gorman said, "Lauren was just a true delight of a human colleague and friend. Caring, curious, and hilarious. A hoot. Despite her demanding schedule, she would visit my office every Wednesday night without fail, and I made sure to stick around for Lauren time. We'd check in, catch up, she'd recap her latest adventures or update on her amazing family, ask about mine, share a laugh, and we'd goad each other into buying one more coat or bag. You couldn't help but feel brighter after an interaction with Lauren. Her energy was infectious. She brought a joy to Eaton Hall. I will miss her dearly." Lauren brought sunshine and warmth to her teaching as well. Students came to know and love archaeology through her love of her work. She left a profound impact on the field, training generations of archaeologists as well as kids who might not become archaeologists but would go into the world thinking about, say, trash in a whole new way. Or the Indiana Jones movies, or about themselves as products of evolution, about the ground beneath their feet. She gave them ideas that, as one student said, I think about a lot when I go about my daily life. Like many of you, I'm sure, I find that student evaluations are not a favorite genre. But I enjoyed reading Lauren's. And I hope she wouldn't mind me sharing some of the gems from them. She's a true G. I love this course big time. Professor Sullivan was so kind and amazing. Professor Sullivan is a wonderful professor who is passionate about archaeology and teaches for the right reasons. She's a very nice woman with a kind heart. She is super fun and engaging and made me look forward to class every week. It was always a delight to come to her classes and learn from her. I want to become an archaeologist now. I love this course more than words can imagine. And this one. Honestly, I despise liberal arts requirements. I feel you. However, Lauren is an amazing professor and actually made me enjoy this course and the material. She is funny, knowledgeable, and extremely helpful. 5 stars. Over and over, students describe Lauren as passionate. There are some professors you experience in an education whose passion for their field is infectious and makes you want to drink more deeply of the field. Dr. Sullivan is such a professor. That was a quote, by the way, excuse me. Zareen Machanda, one of my colleagues, described one student's experience. One student told me that going to Lawrence Field School changed her life. And it's not because it made her realize that she wanted to be an archaeologist. In fact, she realized that maybe she didn't want to be an archaeologist. But it did make her want to have a career that she loved as much as Lauren loved her job. Students also described Lauren as fun, quote, one of the funniest, friendliest professors I've ever had, end quote. And happy, quote, this professor was always happy and excited, end quote, and genuine, Quote, "She is one of the sweetest, most genuine professors I have ever had. She really wants everyone to learn and understand," end quote. I found the following statement especially moving, quote, "Professor Sullivan is extremely charismatic and friendly. Her classes are lighthearted and enjoyable, especially when she shares stories about her digs and fieldwork. So I never wanted to miss one of her classes. I think that what other students often reflect her energy as well, which makes the class experience better too," end quote. Lauren had that effect on a lot of us. We found ourselves reflecting her sunshine, becoming better and happier in her presence. When I went back into Lauren's course evaluations, I found something else, expressions of gratitude directed at Lauren herself. Quote, "Professor Sullivan, thank you for an amazing and intellectually stimulating course. Quote, thank you so much for being an amazing professor. Quote, I think you have a wonderful and warm energy. Thank you for all the times you are understanding, especially at this challenging academic world moment. Thank you for being understanding." By the way, I work at Tufts and my evaluations don't sound like that. I, along with our department, share this gratitude. Thank you, Professor Sullivan. Thank you. Thank you, Lauren. Students noticed many things about you. You were passionate, kind, fun. You listened. They felt your realness and reflected it. They were inspired to be in their worlds in more attuned and better ways. Your colleagues reflected your warmth and were inspired to be better teachers, mentors, and advisors. I'm inspired by you to remember how much I love what I do and how fortunate I am to be able to do it and to share that passion with others. To all who love Lauren, we are so grateful to have had the privilege of knowing her, working with her, learning from her, and reflecting her sunshine. We miss her, and we are thankful for the time we had with her. Thank you very much.
In the words of Stephen, hey y'all. You stole that from me. I was going to use that too. My name's Andrew West. I'm another one of Lauren's colleagues from Tufts. While I'm married to an archaeologist, I'm actually an astronomer. And Lauren was my friend and my partner and my colleague since I started at Tufts starting in 2016. We co-taught a class, speaking of, Craig was talking about liberal arts requirements, we co-taught a class every single semester at Tufts called From the Big Bang to Humankind that covers astronomy, earth science, chemistry, biology, and archaeology. And Lauren taught in that class well before even I started at Tufts. I started running that class in 2020, and I maybe have perhaps the unique pleasure of being a person who got to attend somewhere between 40 and 50 of Lauren's lectures over the last several years. We also did 1 to 2 panel discussions every semester, so I got to teach with her as a fellow panelist, where we talked about topics of science ethics, science education, why we have the natural science requirement in college, and many more things. And as has already been spoken, Lauren shared her personal stories and her joy and her love of teaching and interest in archaeology and archaeological science. I also got to watch over the last several years as I attended all these lectures, her change from using hominid to hominin, to regale us with stories of the Belize jungle and talk about, various dark warehouses on the University of Texas campus that certainly, probably to this day, are still not NAGPRA compliant. Mostly, I was witness to Lauren's enthusiasm and passion for teaching that we've all heard so much about, and how she inspired both her students and me and our fellow co-instructors. She I think it was Patrick talked about or gave a quote from students who said they never will go to a museum the same way. Well, Lauren and I, a couple years ago, decided we really hated the last exam in our class. We didn't like writing it or grading it. The students hated it because it was always at the end of the semester, and we said, let's just send them to a museum instead. And we actually co-wrote this assignment where students go and they basically self-assess themselves. Like, what did you learn in this giant science course by they go to the Harvard Natural History Museum. And Lauren was adamant that we put in an element where they reflect on the ethics of how the material was acquired, which you can tell over the last decade, Harvard has been in the news about maybe not doing a good job of that. So students, I'm sure all of our students also don't ever go to a museum the same way. Over the past couple of weeks, I also, just like Craig, have looked through Lauren's evaluations from our class, and thought I would share a couple. I'll be brief since Craig, they reflect the exact same things that we already heard. So here are a couple. Dr. Sullivan was so sweet and such an engaging professor. You could tell she was passionate in what she taught and very knowledgeable on the subject. Dr. Sullivan is a great storyteller, and the personal connections she brings to her lectures make the class engaging and memorable. She explains concepts through narratives that help you understand not only the science, but also the people behind it. Her teaching style keeps the class interested and makes them material feel meaningful. And then, quote, incredibly kind, funny, and engaging. My favorite part of this course was when she was teaching. She had super interesting experiences. I think all of our students have learned a ton from her, and I know my teaching has been remarkably changed over the last decade because of my partnership with Lauren, and she will be missed immensely. Thank you.
We have a couple of videos that were sent in remotely for people in Texas who couldn't be here.
Hi everyone, my name is Kat Brown, and I had the privilege to have had a beautiful friendship with Lauren for almost 35 years. I first met Lauren in 1992 on an archaeological project in the country of Belize, and since that field season, we have been best friends. There were a couple of things that immediately impressed me about Lauren in 1992. One was her spirit. She was fun, enthusiastic, engaged, smart, all of the things that I aspired to be. I was also deeply impressed with the fact that she packed more shoes than I did, which is not a small feat. And I was greatly amused by her fear of clowns. Anyway, we were best friends from 1992 on, supported each other through many trials and tribulations in grad school, sleeping in a tent in the jungle for several months, pulling all-nighters to finish scholarly projects, and all of the things that you do as a dedicated graduate student and scholar. Lauren is such a rare person, and we are all so lucky to have had her in our life. She was the most kind and generous person that I have ever known. And I just wanted to mention that because I feel like we need more people with the type of kindness and warmth that Lauren gave to everyone around her. I also want to mention that Lauren was a dedicated scholar, and she was very humble about her scholarship, and she certainly did not need to be. She made a very significant impact on our discipline. Her work on early Maya ceramics in the Maya lowlands was transformative, and her scholarship will live on through her legacy, through her students. And she's got publications that are still coming out in the coming months. So we all need to celebrate her contributions to the discipline. Lauren also was an amazing colleague. And as a colleague of hers, an archaeological colleague of hers, and I know I may be biased because she was my best friend, but I've seen how she treated all of her other colleagues. She was very supportive and always lent a helping hand to junior colleagues, and was one of these valuable people that would roll up their sleeves and always help in any way that she could. And I know she was an amazing colleague to everyone at UMass. And I know that she enjoyed her time and being part of the community at UMass. Lauren was a dedicated teacher. She loved her students. She put much energy and effort into her pedagogy. And in fact, she talked about it all the time to me about what she was doing in the classroom and what she could do to engage students in this way or that way. And that was a very important aspect in her life. But the most important aspect, at least from my perspective, in her life was her family and her friends. She was very dedicated. She deeply loved her parents and her siblings, her brother and her sister, and her nieces and her nephews, and her husband, Gary. We would talk on the phone, and I would hear all about what everybody was doing all the time. And so she was such a wonderful person to so many of us, and dedicated in every single aspect of her life. She will be deeply missed. I struggle with her loss every day, and I know everybody else here is also having those same feelings. But I know that she will be with us in spirit, and we will be remembering her in many different ways and celebrating her. And every day I know that I'm going to strive to be more like our Lauren. Anyway, thank you for putting together this beautiful memorial, and thank you for celebrating Lauren.
When we conclude this and the pictures start cycling through again, you will see Kat represented in many pictures from the early 90s all the way up there as a dear friend and colleague. Is Madeline Snyder, who was an undergraduate here a few years ago and is now a PhD student with Kat Brown at the University of Texas in San Antonio, and has actually graciously agreed to step in and teach Lauren's two courses here on the rise and fall of the Maya. So it's a very perfect solution to quite an imperfect moment, but she couldn't be here, so she wanted to share these words as well.
Hello everyone, my name is Maddie Snyder, and I'd like to share a few words about Lauren. Lauren Sullivan was my advisor when I attended UMass Boston, and a mentor to me for many years afterwards. She not only shaped my academic career, she changed my life. And in honor of all that she did for each and every one of her students, I'd like to share the story of how Lauren made such an impact on me. not by going above and beyond or doing some heroic deed, but just by being herself and doing the kinds of things that she did every day for all of her students. When I first started college, I struggled a lot with my mental health. I found out that I really didn't like my original major. I didn't even like the school I was attending. I felt very lost. And so I dropped out. And for a while, I thought I would never go back to school. But eventually, I enrolled at UMass Boston, first as a non-degree seeking student, just to see if maybe a different school would be better. On my first day, I sat in Lauren's Ancient Cities and States class, anxious that I didn't belong there and it would be just as bad as the first time around and I would never find my place. But then I heard a sound that would soon become something that always made me smile. The sound of a pair of heels clicking down the hallway, followed by a cheerful "Hey y'all" as Lauren walked into the room. I liked her instantly and quickly came to love anthropology through her exceptional teaching. I became an anthropology major, went with her to Belize on an archaeological field school, and then again the next year as a member of staff. And I even asked her to write me a recommendation letter for grad school, where I am now pursuing a PhD under the guidance of Lauren's best friend, Kat Brown. Lauren changed my life, and I'll always be grateful to her for not only the career that I now have, but also the lifelong friendships that I made in her classes and on her field school. Lauren was encouraging, kind, funny, and caring to all of her students. And I know I'm not alone in saying that I owe a lot to her impact. I'd like to close with a happy memory of class with her. When I took her class, The Rise and Fall of the Maya, we were preparing to write one of the papers that were due, and she was trying to emphasize to the class that we couldn't rely on spell check to make sure that our papers were good, because there were so many words and names of Maya sites that weren't in English and would be incorrectly fixed by spell check if we weren't careful. And to make sure we remembered this point, she told us about how she once had to sit through a whole student presentation where the very important and well-known site called Chichen Itza was mistakenly called chicken pizza on almost every single slide, and how hard she was fighting to not burst into laughter every time the words chicken pizza were said. And now, every time I hear that site name, which is quite frequently since I'm now myself a Maya archaeologist, I think of that story and it makes me smile. So I hope we can all hold on to memories of Lauren that make us smile, just like she made us smile while she was here with us, and that we can keep her memory in our hearts through that joy. Thank you.
We're going to open the floor for some for past or current students to speak. And I know there are at least 2 or 3 here that had corresponded with us and said that they would like to speak. Tristan, you're up in the front. You want to launch this? So when Tristan's done, others, I know Claire's here. Cindy, did you make it? There you are. Okay. So we'll kind of do maybe the 3 of you, and then if there are others who would like to come up.
Hello, everyone. I'm horribly sorry to be here today, but glad to know that the professor I adored so much was likewise adored by so many people. Professor Sullivan was all the kindness and warmth that has been ascribed to her. She was Auroran and possessed a warmth of character that could melt the hearts of all who came in contact with her, especially here in salty, cold New England. I remember the many classes we had together fondly. She would saunter into the room and lighten everybody's day with her big, bright, usual "Hey, y'all." She would sashay through the jungle in her heels as if there were no obstacles before her. She would keel over with us in class, laughing at things we had said and done. She was very much a consummate and professional anthropologist and was in many ways in tune with her inner child, which was something we all could connect with in her classes. She was witty and wonderfully charming. One time she explained to us in class the expression "oh sha," which was meant to denote either fondness between others or charity in the face of pure stupidity. And then she invited us to imagine what she meant when she used it with us. Professor Sullivan was brilliant, and this is evident in everything that she did, especially in how she inspired the hearts and minds of young learners to pursue their passions, especially those who were not anthropology majors. This was something I saw frequently in class, where she would take special attention and care to the students who were not directly and professionally engaged with anthropology, but wanted to connect with human beings on a deeper level, which I feel is the essence of anthropology within itself. She likewise was an incredibly intuitive person, whether it be with indigenous peoples across the Yucatan or sheepish undergrads. She had a talent for inspiring the best from people. I have one particular memory of her that stands out not only for how important it was for me then, but for how I've chosen to live my life on thereafter. In Belize one day, sitting on the balcony of our sleeping area, I became deeply depressed and was highly convinced that I would leave sooner than the program would finish. I had planned to travel to Tikal in Guatemala with the rest of my cohort, but having never been abroad and being wholly unprepared for what that meant, I didn't believe I could continue. Professor Sullivan sat down next to me and insisted that if I did not go, if I let my depression make decisions on my behalf, that I would live forever in regret. She told me that we have to live both in the present and in the future. So because of Professor Sullivan, I traveled abroad for the first time, and because of Professor Sullivan, I had the most remarkable summer of my life. Because of Professor Sullivan, I choose daily to live in the future rather than to allow depression to define me and my actions. Professor Sullivan endowed her students with both tremendous knowledge and charity. The memory of her and the continued effect of her teaching will continue to illuminate the lives of all of us who had the privilege of knowing her. I pray that wherever she is now is a place draped in eternal Caribbean sunsets, and of course that the saints are always winning. To her and to her wonderful family, to Gary, Bonaire and Botherlat, may the road always rise with you.
Hello, my name is Claire Spiridolozzi, and I graduated from UMass Boston in December of 2022. Dr. Sullivan was my anthropology advisor, and it was her intro to archaeology class that made me want to pursue an anthropology degree and to become an archaeologist. She had such a profound impact on my life, not just in my career, but also as someone to turn to for advice. Lauren Sullivan was so kind, smart, funny, and I looked forward to her class and our advising meetings during and after my time at UMass Boston. Navigating my undergrad career, as well as applying to graduate school, would have been so much more challenging without her help along the way. I am so devastated by her passing, as this is such a loss to not only the UMB and Tufts communities, as well as her family and friends, but also to the field of archaeology. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Cindy Hagan, and I graduated from UMass in 2002. And I actually was work-study student in the UMass anthropology department from 1998 to 2002, so kind of when Lauren was starting. I was really lucky to have her early in her career here and to have her for many classes, as well as many, many discussions at various times during the day. But above all, my favorite memories of her are from the Belize Field School. So as an archaeology major, I did a field school on my own in Ireland. And then I went to Steve's Shelter Island because historical archaeology was kind of my thing. And then after that one, Lauren said, well, you're graduating. You have to come to mine now. You've been to everybody else's. You don't know what real archaeology is until you've been in the jungle. So I went in 2001. And it was an adventure from the start, from landing in Belize City. None of us had cell phones at that time. We didn't have easy ways to get around. We loaded up in the back of pickup trucks, and this is when you rode in the back of the pickup truck, no seatbelts. And on our way, 40 miles plus into the jungle on dirt roads. And let me tell you, I had never been that far in the backcountry. I had never been in a jungle. We had been warned about the poisonous beetles and all the snakes, and a few people even brought machetes with them, even though those did not stand up to the jungle for very long. I have so many wonderful memories of it, but one general memory I remember about Belize is Dr. Sullivan shined at all times when she was here. But in the jungle, even more so, she glowed, like walking across the quad. It was just like pure sunshine. You knew she was in her element. And even though people joke about her heels and her bags and, she didn't mind being dirty. We went for, days and days without showers. And, it made me realize that anybody could do this, and you just kind of had to be brave and keep going. I don't think she knows how much of a mentor she was to me. After I left UMass, I went to California and then to Montana. I worked as an archaeologist for 20 years. I'm no longer in the field, but her kindness and direction had a huge impact on my life. One thing people have noted about her is her kindness. I'm a quieter person. Kindness is something that's very important to me, and it's something I try to push for other people. She was somebody that I always thought to emulate, and I wanted to be here today to also convey the fact that I don't think she knew how much she impacted my life, and I don't think we know day to day how much one word or one class, one person, one smile can do that. And that's really what Lauren was. She impacted so many students, so many people she impacted or came upon every single day. And I'm sorry I never got to say that to her personally. So, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alexander Malavorn. I graduated here 2019. I first met Lauren actually when I was headhunted for the Belize Archaeology Field School, and I have no regrets. I'll keep this brief. I wanted to give my appreciation to her. She did my letter of recommendation for grad school, and I recently found out I just got my master's from the University of Edinburgh. And if it wasn't for her and that letter of recommendation, it wouldn't have happened. So I owe my success to her. I learned of her passing less than a week after I found I got my master's, so I never got to tell her. So I believe it was important to tell everyone that knew her, cared about her, and loved her that there's more people that she's continued to help. And I can't explain how thankful I am for her time. She was a force of personality, and I fully believe that if I had just a third of the energy that she had, I'd be 3 times more successful. So, here's to her.
Hi, everyone. My name is Will Flater. Last semester, in fall 2025, I had the privilege of taking Professor Sullivan's intermediate seminar, The Rise and Fall of the Maya, which we've all heard so much about. And from the very beginning, the very first class, I was immediately struck by her passion for archaeology, her vast intellects, and her wisdom on the Maya. But more than that, I was struck by her energy. her love of her hometown of New Orleans and, of course, the Saints. I remember she was telling us about how she almost got a Saints emblem tattooed on her, and she backed out. She'd slip a little bit of herself into every lecture, granting us the privilege to know her as more than an educator, but a person. I think that's so important that we have. It's one thing to know so much about your subject, and it's another thing to instill that love and that knowledge into someone else. And so many of you have mentioned how she's done that for you today. And she was one of the greatest educators I've known. And I may not always remember the religious beliefs of the pre-classic Maya. I'm not an anthropology major, I'm an anthropology minor. But what I will remember is Professor Sullivan's kindness. She always made time for her students. She always made time for me. No problem was too big, and everything could be solved by kindness and patience and a little Southern twang. Professor Sullivan taught me to ask for help, and that it was always okay to ask for help. And both when I would do it, when I would stay late and rant and rave about one thing or the other, and eventually I'd look forward to staying late after 9:50 would hit and talking about anything and everything with her and with Morgan, who's sitting in the back there, and always walking out, the three of us, and then always being late for the class I would have at 10. But then also how she would ask us for help, and she was always so incredibly humble. And I remember this fall, she was mentioning how her nephew was coming to visit, her 13-year-old nephew. I don't remember his name, unfortunately. But she was asking us what to do with a 13-year-old in the area. And she had so much wisdom, but she also knew that there was always something to learn. And I feel like in the one semester that I had the privilege to know her, that I've learned so much from her. And one of the things that I'm taking away from this is that this semester I was always saying, I'm going to go up to the 4th floor of McCormick and I'm going to go see Professor Sullivan. And I never got to. Life gets in the way. People are incredibly busy. It's always the wrong time. Professor Addo said a similar notion of they never made it to Carnival. They never made it to Mardi Gras. So I guess what I'm asking is to not lose the moments before you don't get the opportunity to anymore. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys for letting me jump in here. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brandon Lewis. I've known Lauren for 36 years. And like everyone here, I have the most amazing memories of Lauren. The ones that I treasure the most and will always treasure the most have nothing to do with the jungles of Guatemala or the jungles of Belize or the field of archaeology. And there were a lot. Lauren was not only a dear friend, it's going to be very difficult for me. She was my second sister. She was there when my sister passed away. She was there when my dad passed away. And she even became nice friends with my mom. And this did not come without a fair amount of obligation, if you knew my mother. When my mother would want to get a hold of me on a daily basis and couldn't, to talk about important things such as, what are you wearing today, Brandon? Or, what did you have for breakfast today, Brandon? She would call Lauren and talk Lauren's ear off. And Lauren was more than happy to say, Carol, guess what? I'm wearing this, and I have my outfit laid out for the entire week. God bless Lauren for always picking up the phone, and she never, ever complained. When my mom passed away, Lauren drove down on many an occasion, and that's when I first got to meet her mom and dad, because she would help me over an extended period pack up the condo, go through my family's possessions, decide what we should keep, what we should throw away, what we should donate, and what was going to be packed to California. My mom and Lauren are the only ones really to hold a very special and exclusive place in my heart. My mom would send a letter or a card to me every year on my birthday. It meant the world to me. The only other person in the world that did that was Lauren. Every year I would go to the mailbox and there would be a birthday card from a funny birthday card waiting for me from Lauren. And it wasn't because my birthday is special. It was because Lauren thought that I was special. And I told her year after year that she and my mom are two individuals that will only be in a certain place of my heart just for that. I can't think of any place that I'd rather be today. Symbolically enough, today is my birthday. Today is my birthday. And to show my love for Lauren, there's no place that I would rather be than with Gary, than with her mom, Karen, right? Her dad, Mike, sister, Kathy, and her brother, Michael, and then all of you friends. But before I left California last night for the flight, I knew there was one more birthday card waiting for me. There had to be. There had to be one more birthday card. Then I heard Lauren's voice. Lauren led me to a folder that I have not looked at in many, many years. I opened it up. I rifled through all of these letters. And there at the end was a birthday card from Lauren, unopened, dated from 2015 and in perfect lyric form, arriving 2 days early on March 25th. And here it is, unopened from Lauren. Tonight I will get one of the nicest birthday presents I will ever receive. I will open up this letter from Lauren on my birthday and show you how much I love Lauren. I'm even going to try to pour a Diet Coke and rum. So for those of you that was her drink. So thank you for this honor. My love and sincere sorrow and apologies go to her family and everybody here. Thank you.
On behalf of the family, thank all of you for being here and all your remarks. Any of y'all that have printable remarks, would love to get them, maybe send them to Patrick or somewhere so we can all see them and enjoy them later. It's a small world, though, with Belize. One of my longtime colleagues' wife's grandfather was the last British Prime Minister of Belize. 1987, Lauren graduated from Trinity University, where one of our granddaughter is, and left as a psychology major. But her graduation present was a trip to Belize. Excuse me. She left in banana pearls, Banana Republic clothes, pearls, dressed to the nines. We thought she'd be back in 2 days, but she loved it. I'm sure Lauren would want to send her love to everyone here, especially her students who she loved. And she went in for surgery a couple of weeks ago. She didn't want any of the miseducation. She had multiple lectures prepared at time and some tests and papers due also. Over the years, we've heard about each of you, especially the students, and all the hardships many of you to go through to get an education, the challenges many of you have, the difficulties. She tried her hardest to deliver a quality education to each of you. To sum up, Lauren, in a few words, I'll try to tell you the following. When most of us see a panhandler on the street corner, we hide our eyes and ignore them. Lauren always had packets of foods that she would hand to them. That's the kind of person she was. She loves all of you and wishes all of you, particularly her students, lots of success. Thank you.
Afternoon, I'm Michael, Lauren's baby brother. I'm 52 and I still proudly embrace that title. You're here today, you already know what a special person she was. Imagine how lucky I've been to be on the receiving end of her love and thoughtfulness for my entire childhood. Though she hated every time I mentioned it, I'm 9 years younger than she was. So in my early years, Lauren felt almost like a part second mother and part sister. Some of my earliest memories of her doing special things for me, like every time she babysat, she'd make a special dessert. I'd get all excited, she wouldn't tell me what it was. Then she'd turn into a game by making me try and guess the secret ingredient. That's when I remembered she was my sister, because the secret ingredient was usually something nasty, like minced garlic or a dash of Tabasco. I still loved it. I remember our trips to Callaway Gardens. She'd make me a fun book for the 8-hour trip. It was filled with handmade puzzles, comics, snacks to keep me occupied and docile in the back of the family truckster. Tradition lasted even into my college years, which time she'd replaced the Mad magazine with something of a more adult nature. As I got older, I began to see a completely different and equally admirable side of her. One summer, I was lucky enough to travel to Belize and visit her at her dig site. Lauren in the jungle was honestly something I had to see to believe. Sure enough, same woman who wouldn't let anyone touch her guest towels or allow street clothes near her bed linen was digging in the dirt, swinging a machete, sleeping in a tent, and using an outhouse. That doesn't mean she didn't pack a few silk robes for the occasion, but still. As her colleagues here can attest, she proved to be as good with a trowel and sieve as she was with a hairdryer and curling iron. And I left Belize a believer. Lauren's success wasn't just from her personality and dedication. She, as we've heard today, was a skilled planner and problem solver. Every time our family's gone through hard times, Lauren was the glue that held us together. She was always several steps ahead of the rest of us, making sure everyone was taken care of. As difficult as these last 2 weeks have been for us, they've been made harder because we've not been able to find the color-coded binder of logistics that she absolutely must have prepared for this occasion, laminated, cross-referenced, and detailed enough to politely remind you guests not to wear white if it falls after Labor Day. As nurtured and supported as Lauren made me feel as her brother, I've come to realize my experience with her was not unique, and we've heard that today. With Mom and Dad, she would thoughtfully arrange us all to be together for their big birthdays and anniversaries, whether the rest of us wanted to or not. While some sisters might have wanted to get away as far as possible from their older sibling, my sister Chris followed Lauren's footsteps to college, and somehow along the way they became best friends. And her husband, Gary, after dating her years ago, eventually realized what he was missing and found his way back to her, helping her give her some of the happiest years of her life. Lauren brought the same thoughtfulness to every role she had: daughter, wife, aunt, Mimi, teacher, doctor, archaeologist, gym buddy, and friend. What I'll remember most is Lauren's incredible gift to make those around her feel special. I imagine almost everyone in this room here today has a memory of Lauren doing something just for them. We all tell those closest to us that we love them, but Lauren had a real way of showing you. A thoughtful gift, a helping hand, a warm meal, contagious laughter, and maybe, just maybe, a bulleted to-do list. Through her kindness, Lauren made sure that you knew without a doubt that she cared about you. It's that feeling that she gave all of us that I know she wants us to hold close to now and carry on with us always. Thank you for being here and for loving Lauren, and I can tell from all the stories today that many of you absolutely did. We'll miss her more than words can say. Thank you.
It's going to be hard. I come from a proud family of men who are very emotional. So bear with me. It's going to take a while, but we'll get through it, okay? A sister here, we gave my dad a set of tires for his pickup truck about 30 years ago. He bawled for 30 minutes for those tires. It was like, the craziest thing. So my love with Lauren was epic in every sense of the word. I'm going to try to relate somehow to that, to archaeology and here, but just so you know, let me get one of these Kleenexes I got. Every day when the alarm goes off, I would walk in with a Celsius, her favorite caffeinated drink. And she would greet me with this radiant smile. Everybody loves that smile. You've seen it all. It's just magnetic. and we would exchange our terms of endearment. I'd go over to the window and say, well, "What's on your schedule today?" Much to some of the discomfort in here, almost every day it was, "I have a Zoom at 11. I have a Zoom at 3 o'clock." And then she would walk to her car, sashay, as somebody said. That was a great word because Lauren could do a mean sashay. And then we live on the 10th floor, and so she would walk to her car every day. I'd go on the balcony. She'd look up to me. I would look down at her. We would blow each other kisses and wish for a good day. It's just the way the day would start, right? Then, at the end of the day, she'd come in and I'd say, well, sort of like a 60s family question was, "How did your day go, dear?" And I would expect something scientific, something archaeology. And always she would talk about the relationships that she had that day. And inevitably, she was drawn to relationships, especially for people that were struggling. It was like a magnet. If she knew somebody was out there was challenged, it was like a magnet, just pulled her in. Social interactions, financial things, struggling with the school, parents, all of it, she would just gravitate to those people and insist on finding a way to help them. And it was not just in school, in Belize. If you've ever go there, you'll see some people at the airport that are selling you trinkets, just trying to make a buck. And she would just gravitate to them, help them, try to figure out a way to even help them with their products. And we've all seen some of the benefits of that when we still go there. The cooks in camp, everybody would sort of be engaged with each other, and Lauren would every day thank those cooks for preparing the meals that we had. And it was, she approached all of these things, all of the challenges. We've heard this many times today, but she would address them with empathy and kindness. And that's sort of in my mind, one of the big things that kind of helps define Lauren. We have had a loving relationship for 3 decades, on and off, and the past 10 years have been the best of my life, absolutely the best of my life. When I came first to visit her in 2016 and walked into an apartment, on a shelf was a sign that says, "Experience kindness every day and wonderful things will happen to you." And I thought, okay, that's it. I found where I am supposed to be, and it was with Lauren, and we were married 6 months later, and it's been the best decision I've ever made. So yeah, kindness is the thing that I hope people remember. One of the last things that we talked about before she went into that she'd gone to the hospital, the surgery was pretty successful, and we were in the room talking. She said, one of the things that I've learned about this experience is let the little things go. Don't worry about being so disciplined with the students. Don't worry if they are using AI to do their assignments. Don't worry about it. Just be forgiving and understanding and help them see a world as a better place. And I think that's one of the things that I hope we all remember. She was a fantastic. I was in college for a span of 16 years, seen many great teachers. None of them came close to Laura. She was that good, that committed. And she cared deeply. She loved deeply, people, friends that she met. And I'm going to miss her and love her forever. Thanks all of you for organizing this.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you all for coming. My job. Oh, Jesus, I'm going to get emotional. I didn't want to do this. So I'm going to just read it. I want to thank everyone for coming today and sharing their thoughts and remembrances of Lauren. I want her family, Gary and her parents and her whole family, for being with us today and for thanking her parents for raising such a wonderful human being. It helps at a moment that still is so immediate and difficult really to grasp. And I wanted to thank everyone who helped plan and implement today's event. Everyone in the department, the beloved Fisk Center, which I direct, I had to get that in there. And finally, see, now I'm okay. And finally, I want to thank our wonderful students. Lauren loved the students here at UMB. And I can say that students have always been what makes UMass Boston the good place it is. But for me personally, Lauren was a very special person who brought so much positive energy to our department and to her students. UMass Boston isn't always easy. It can frustrate you. But I never saw Lauren voice anything other than positive views, even when she was talking about some of these challenges. Another thing about UMass Boston that presented a challenge was that it was a commuter school. Dorms are a new thing. So one result was that you really got to know the folks who were on the same teaching schedule as you. And I was, for years, on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday schedule. Lauren was as well. And because of that, I would see her in the morning with her office door open, and always she would say, "Hey, Steve," a label that nobody gave me in New England. Hey, I had to learn what that meant. And there was much more to the part of Lauren that she brought with her from her wonderful home of New Orleans. We shared so many things. We were both tall. And we had to deal with that, right? We were both deeply New England Patriot fans and felt sorry for the people of a place like New Orleans to almost never have success. We were highly organized. She was always the first to have her AFR in. I never got my AFR in on time, ever. And last but not least, well, I won't even say that. When I look back on these moments with Lauren, I have a new appreciation. When I found out she had passed, and I have experienced sudden loss in my life, so I know that feeling. This was not real. This was very hard. And so when I think of those conversations, how pleasant they were, how every day they improved my life. Even the conversations, and this is where I'm going to become the Rhode Island person that I am, are wonderful conversations about her ever-popular field school in Belize, which every year I had to listen to about how, oh, well, I have no problem getting people. And Steve and I trying as hard as we could to, couldn't you give us a couple of people, But I knew that, of course, I would have wanted to go to Belize rather than, of course, beautiful Grafton, Massachusetts, which is, of course, a wonderful place. What I loved most about Lauren is this. She never gloated, but she had a way of letting me know with her eyes and her speech how much she loved the fact that I wanted to be with her in Belize and not in Grafton, Massachusetts, But she just had that ability to communicate that with her eyes and that laughter, that smile that everybody's talking about. And she was a hearty laugher, and she enjoyed that. And that was who Lauren was to me. That person who always made my day better, and I could always talk to about anything. And she was always so warm, laughing. I said she was a great laugher. And even there, saying that, I feel the pain that she was, because for me, she will never be who she was. That time to truly feel, truly believe, truly understand she's not here will take me a year. And here's one thing I want to pass on to everyone here that I've learned from these experiences. It will take a year for you to understand that she's gone. But then you will realize you've survived. And I think that's the best you can expect, because you can't lose somebody like her. and then go about your life like it's the same. It never will be the same. So thank you, everyone. Lauren will continue to be a part of our lives and a part of our department and our UMB community forever. She will continue to live in our minds and in our hearts, and eventually make us laugh and feel good about all of the time we got to spend with her. And so thank you all for coming.
I just wanted to thank you all for coming, and I think it would be an appropriate time to close here. For one, it's extremely hard to follow Steve. I think we set out today to make the theme to be about love, and I think it was clear from all of our speakers that that was what was in our hearts today. We would like to collect the cards on your tables. If people still have thoughts, we would like to share those with the family. And we also would like to remind people not to make us take all that food home, and to please go get your fill. And there's still some time to mingle, but I think that concludes the ceremony. Thank you.